Hey guys, Chris here with the Good Old Gamer. So today we're going to talk about something that Kelso over at Cortex shot over to me last week. He sent me a couple of videos about the brand new Control video game and all of its RTX features. So there's been a couple of videos out there basically showing off all these brand new RTX features. But the big thing that the tech press seems to be missing are the two most important questions. What's the cost and is it worth it? So that's what I want to talk to you guys about here today, as it seems like a lot of people in the tech press are completely out of touch with reality, and I'm going to show that to you. They basically demonstrate this in their own videos, so I'm going to show it to you in their own words, how out of touch a lot of these people really are, and we're going to go over whether or not ray tracing is actually worth it. While the features displayed are pretty cool, they're not as good as a lot of people might suggest. So that's what I want to take a look at here today. We're going to do kind of a deep dive into a couple of different things. This is going to be a really interesting video. So if you're interested in ray tracing with RTX and NVIDIA graphics cards, or even if you're not, but you're interested to see kind of the pros and cons, stick around. That's what we're going to be talking about here today. But before we get to that, today's video is sponsored by privacy.com. In a world dominated by e-commerce, your privacy has never been more at risk. Major companies fall prey to data breaches all the time, and unfortunately, your private information is at risk. This is where privacy.com comes into play. As a service, they offer virtual credit cards, much like virtual PCs, to keep your private information safe. All you have to do is link your bank information, and a virtual credit card will be presented to you with all the relevant information. To keep your information safe, you don't even have to enter your real name nor your real billing address. Simply add the information for your virtual card and you're good to go. This is even great for subscriptions where you don't want to be double or overbilled. You can limit them to just a few dollars per month, whatever your subscription fee is, and that's the maximum amount that you could be charged. If you believe one of your cards have been compromised, you can easily cancel it and create a new card at any time. And you don't have to worry, as refunds will be deposited directly back to their source even if the card is closed. So you can do this as frequently as you want to keep yourself protected. Privacy.com offers all the great benefits of virtualization now for your own personal shopping security. And right now, for a limited time, if you want to get started, they will give you $5 towards your first purchase by clicking the link in the description below. Now on to the video. Alright, so this first clip that we're going to be taking a look at, this is from PC World. This is a very large media PC gaming outlet out there. Okay, so you're just watching some random background footage from their video. Links to all these videos will be in the description below if you want to see the whole thing. I'm just going to go over the bits that I find most important. So let's take a look and see exactly what we're looking at here.
The reflections on the floor. Man, what the hell's going on there?
So yeah, we should mention we have RTX on.
RTX on.
And we have all of the RTX on. And you can see up in the top left, we have a performance thing where we're getting a steady 60, but we're running on a 2080 Ti, right,
2080
Adam?
Ti, correct.
And that's what I played on at home as well. We can toggle it on and off.
Okay, so the information that we have is they're running Control with all of the settings maxed out, completely maxed out, and it's running on a GTX or an RTX 2080 Ti, and it's running at 1080p 60. We have that information. Now, the guy in the video, he does allude to the fact that he does own a 2080 Ti at home as well. And this is really interesting for this fact right here.
So obviously we're running on a 2080 Ti here. What are you using at home? And we have to capture at 1080p. That's just kind of how our
yeah, I
capture
was
setup
doing a
is.
2080 Ti at home also.
Are you at 1080p?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it high frame rate or? No?
Yeah, it was all in terms of the monitor.
Yeah,
no,
your monitor. Okay.
Because they got rid of. This is really niche, but they got rid of the connection that I used for. My 144 hertz. So,
no. Okay.
And my monitor does not have DisplayPort, so.
So it seems this person that's basically telling you their opinions and gives you advice on what to buy and reviews games and technology, this person has an RTX 2080 Ti at home personally, a $1,200 video card, and uses it on a 1080p 60 monitor. Let that sink in for a second. So we have a $1,200 video card with a 1080p 60 monitor. Now, he has a high refresh monitor, but he can't use it because the connector isn't on the newer cards. That means he has an old 144 Hz monitor that requires DVI. So I'll touch more on that here in a little bit, but let's go on to the next video. This is from WCCF Tech.
What we're looking at is the game running with DXR maxed out. So the game is at high settings with, excuse me, dead body, with ray traced reflections, ray traced opaque reflections, as well as the contact shadows, and what else we got. And now if you're paying attention to the frame rates, you'll notice that they're not terrible. So this is with a 2060 Super. I'm sure there will be other people doing videos similar to this and they'll use something like the 2080 Ti, but we're using the 2060 Super and it is being recorded on the Elgato HD60S. Let's go ahead and jump in here. Now, as we go forward, I'm not going to go through the menu system when we make these changes. I'll just make the change. I'll tell you what change we're going to make. I'll make the change and then we'll look at how it looks and runs. So, well, it benefits better at 1440p than it does at 1080p. So we can see here, I'm just going to run back and forth, kind of get a look at how this area looks without it on. We're going to go through and turn it. Now I've turned ray tracing to medium. So DLSS is left off, ray trace on medium. So there we go. It's just the reflections. You can see the reflections of, you know, the individual blocks, the corners there. It's part of, like I said, this is part of the game. Can't really give away too much of it here. But you can see here the performance is still over 60 FPS with just the reflections on. And
all right, so we got some information there. So we can run the game on a $400 RTX 2060 Super at 720p. With all the settings and all the bells and whistles, we can run the game at 720p with an RTX 2060 Super. Okay, however, if you want to limit things back and only have the ray trace puddles, the very basic effects, you can actually run it at 1080p 60 on a $400 video card in 2019. Once again, let that sink in for a second. Now, before I really go into that side of things, because obviously that's the media kind of missing the mark and not really understanding the market, let's go ahead and take a look at Digital Foundry. What they did is Alex Battaglia, he did probably the best video on the RTX features. He broke everything down, just added like one new feature every single time, and you could see the difference as time went on. That's actually a good video, and I do recommend you check that one out. It does show basically where technology is going here into the future, or what some of these features are. However, even though he's trying to paint this picture that RTX and ray tracing really is this big game-changing thing, I think he proves the opposite, that it is a minor feature. It's just a slight graphical increase that has really no bearing on anything. So, for example, in this first image, you have no ray traced effects on one side, and then you have all ray traced effects on the other side. This one has a stark difference. You can see that there is a big difference here, but most noticeably is the fact that you have this reflection in the background. Without that reflection there, if you just take that part out, they don't look too dissimilar. Now, what they could have done is put some cube maps on the non-ray traced version to give the effect of that reflection if they wanted to. The developers decided not to do that without the ray tracing on. So, in all honesty, if you eliminate that one effect, if you just look at the chair and the table, sure, the table's a little bit more shiny on one side, but other than that, is it really any different? I can't see too much of a difference there, and honestly, that's more subjective. It really depends on what's going on in the room, what type of materials these things are made out of. Overall, both look pretty good, and it just depends on the scene. Now, these are things that, honestly, when you're running from room to room playing a game, I don't think you particularly notice. And here's another example where they look at some of the ray trace shadows. I literally can't tell much of a difference here. You can see that the handle on the fire extinguisher has an extra shadow going on, but if you're running from room to room in this game and not stopping to take a look at the fire extinguisher, are you even going to notice this? I honestly wouldn't. In fact, I just now noticed this slight difference just now. And then they did this close-up of the fire extinguisher, and honestly, it just looks like there's different lighting going on in the room. I don't see much of a difference here. And once again, if I was just playing the game running from one room to the next, would I notice the difference here? No, absolutely not. We'd have to zoom in and do a freeze frame like they did to even notice such a thing. So, is it really a big deal? And finally, this one, I actually would say neither of these are the best implementation. So if we see that this pool of blood here, it's kind of bland, let's go to the ray traced one. And then on this particular one, it looks like the pool of blood is now a mirror. And that's something that I have a problem with. A pool of blood, I've never seen a pool of blood just laying there in the middle of the room, but I would expect that it not deliver a perfect mirror of what's above it. And to my eyes, the non-ray traced version actually looks more realistic as to what a pool of blood just laying there would probably look like. So which one of these looks better? I would say that's very debatable because one looks like a mirror and the other one looks very flat and bland, but a pool of blood, in my opinion, is probably going to be very flat and bland. So I couldn't tell you, but I could say probably neither of these are an accurate representation of what the real world would look like. All right, so I covered some basics from 3 videos out there analyzing the new Control game, and we can tell straight away that there's 2 things cropping up here. First off is the media seems to be completely out of touch. As I alluded to, I mean, we have the one guy from PC World. He's got an RTX 2080 Ti. Personally, he either spent $1,200 on it, or even if it was given to him, as part of his job, the guy couldn't even spring a few $100 for a decent monitor that you actually would use with something like a 2080 Ti, 1440p high refresh or 4K. You can get those monitors for $300-$400. They're not that expensive. They're significantly less than the 2080 Ti. So that is completely nuts. You have a $1,200 4K gaming card, and you're saying that, oh yeah, this is great at 1080p, because that's what you personally use, because you're not utilizing your own hardware properly. But this is somebody that then tells other people or suggests to other people what to buy. So that is completely out of touch. And then in the WCCF Tech video, we can see that the $400 card has to run all the way down at 720p. So you have the 2080 Ti, which is a 4K card, having to run at 1080p. That's 1/4 the resolution. And then you have the 2060 Super running at 720p, even though it's a 1440p card, so it's running at 1/4 the res. So we can see here that you're getting 1/4 the frame rate that you probably should with the cards that you buy. Now, anybody spending $1,200 on a video card to play at 1080p is just as crazy as anybody spending $400 on a video card to play at 720p. It doesn't make sense in this world. And that just answers one of our questions from the beginning. Is it worth the cost? No, it is absolutely not worth the cost. RTX is simply too expensive for what you get. I mean, you can argue that there's DLSS and other upscaling resolution techniques and things like that, but we all know that those are not very good. So no, definitively, it's not worth spending $400 to play at 720p, and it's not worth spending $1,200 to play at 1080p here in 2019. Now, the second question was, is it worth it? Now, Digital Foundry's video is probably the best video to answer that, because like I said, the breakdown is so good in that video. I showed you a lot of slides there. And honestly, like I said, most of the time, a lot of this stuff you're just not going to notice. You have to freeze the frame, you have to zoom in, and you really have to look at it. So here, I'm going to show you a quick example. Here's Halo 3 from 2007. So we can see here, this wasn't the most graphically impressive game in 2007, but it was one of the biggest games of 2007. That, and I already had the footage for it. So figured let's use this, and it has kind of a jungly theme to it. Now let's compare this to another game in 2007. As to nobody's surprise, here's Crysis. You don't need to freeze a frame. I don't have to stop the video. You can very clearly see there's a major difference between these two games. This is a giant leap in graphical technology. This is an actual leap. It's very noticeable. You don't have to freeze a frame to see the difference. You don't have to look at puddles. It just looks better. So that's the major difference. You don't get that with RTX. It's not that much better. It's something very unnoticeable that you could easily pass by and just continue playing the game. It has no effect on the actual game itself, and is just kind of like, going from ultra to whatever they're calling the beyond ultra settings now. It's a little bit shinier. That's really about it. The game world is a lot shinier, and things are reflecting all over the place. But as I've argued, I don't think that they're reflecting realistically either. So I wouldn't say that this is overall the next coming of graphics technology. And that's the other thing. Is RTX really going to matter here in the future? We all know that NVIDIA's proprietary features typically die off just as quickly as Google starts up projects and lets them go away. They don't usually stick around because they're not adopted by the main market. Now, AMD has had their real-time ray tracing information kind of leaked out there. I'll put a link to this in the description below. You can take a look at that. It's a little bit more technical than I feel comfortable talking about. It's not my area of expertise, but it sounds radically different than all of the RTX stuff that NVIDIA is using. And that particular implementation of ray tracing will become the standard, as it will be in the next generation consoles. So will RTX even matter in the future is the real question. Now, while I can see some of the benefits because it is a better, more realistic representation of a world inside of a video game, and that's basically what Digital Foundry was talking about, and I do believe that these features will become important at some point, here today, it's very clearly not. I mean, right now I'm going to show you two videos. We're going to look at Doom 2016 versus some of this Control footage, and can you honestly tell me that one of these games actually objectively looks better than the other one? You really can't. They both look good. They're different games, but they both look fine. You can't say that the ray-traced game looks better than the non-ray-traced game. Now, it all comes down to the artists, how they implement things, but Control is supposed to be all the ray-traced features. It's baked in at the game engine level and all this and that. So that's the reason why I wanted to do this video, because this is kind of the best case scenario. All of the ray-traced features are there. This is as good as it's going to get. And honestly, I'm walking away from this going, it's not worth it. Could it be done in the future? Probably. Is it going to be through RTX? I don't think so. More than likely, whatever AMD does will become the standard because of the consoles. So all of this technology, it's just going to fade away, and then NVIDIA is going to have to adopt whatever AMD implements anyway. So we are getting kind of a glimpse into what the future could be, but honestly, if you're spending $1,200 on a video card, you should be playing 1440p high refresh or 4K, and if you're spending $400 on a video card, you should be playing 1440p high refresh or 1080p high refresh at the very least, at the bare minimum. And that's really what was disheartening while watching those videos, was just how out of touch a lot of these people in the press are. So you have to do your own research. You can't just trust me. That's why I'm putting links in the description below. Do your own research. Check this stuff out. You have to be vigilant. There's a lot of people out there telling you what to buy and what to think, and these people don't practice what they preach. You know, if they're spending $1,200 on video cards for 1080p 60, does that person's opinion really make any sense? Well, alrighty guys, that's the video here for today. I want to hear your thoughts on this. I have a pretty good feeling most of you guys are going to be like, yeah, ray tracing's not worth it, blah, 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 blah. In the future, it might be, if implemented properly. And for example, if your $400 video card could run it at 1080p and your $1,000 video card can run it at 1440p, maybe. I could see that being worth it. So we might get to that point in the future. But overall, these graphical upgrades, they're minor. It's not like Halo 3 to Crysis. I mean, that's a major graphical increase. So these little minor bumps in graphical fidelity, they're not worth it to me. Not worth the performance hit. Now, in the future, like I said, without the performance hit, sure, you know, I would turn it on if there was zero performance difference. But anyway, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below on that. And then I want to thank this video sponsor once again. That's privacy.com. These guys offer a great solution. Doesn't cost you anything, and they'll give you $5 to sign up. Help protect your data out there. We're getting into a world where the internet's getting even more crazy. So the more anonymous you are on the internet, the better off you'll be. And don't forget, if you like this video, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Please share with friends. That really does help me out. That's all I have for today. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.